A little something about your financial background in finance.
So I have been in the banking field for almost 7 years now, and I have worked in all areas from retail to internal to back office, which is what I currently do now. And so I've seen a variety of different types of things with finances. I've been able to see success stories. I've been able to help a lot of people achieve their financial goals. It's something I really love. I love to see people reach their goals and their dreams. I love to see them improve in their wealth and just their money management and learning the art of money management. And currently I am auditing, which is something that I love to do. I am the person you do not want to see, but I love to be that person. So it's been a wonderful journey, and that's just a little bit about what I do.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just want to thank you again for joining us this evening. I want to start by asking, what, if any, programs are out there to help singles to establish or build their credit?
Okay. So as you know, for most banks and credit unions, there are all types of different programs out there. The question is, which one is best suitable for me? So we're all familiar with your Credit Wise, your Credit Karma, all of these different things, your credit repair, and those things are not terrible. They're great. However, I'm a relationship builder. So the best thing that I would recommend is for you to reach out to your financial institution. Usually there's our annual and quarterly workshops. So for an example, one here that's locally in Winston is called Financial Pathways. It's a nonprofit and it works with local residents. And so their whole goal is to help you learn the art of management, where you are right now and where you want to be. So if that is purchasing your first vehicle, if that is purchasing your first home, that here locally in Winston-Salem, they have advisors to help you get there, and it's completely free. So that is something that I would recommend for singles as well. If you just are like, you know what, I want to know what I need to save, what I need to invest in, what's the, how long should it take for me to own my own home? So those are different programs that offer quarterly promotions. Every financial institution does this. So please reach out to who your current financial institution is. I strongly recommend that because we are relationship lovers. We are relationship employees. So we want to do what's best for you. So reach out to that, read your newsletters that you're going to get, keep in loop with the workshops and participate in those.
Okay, great. Thank you. So also just wanting to talk about, for those who they're financially stable, they have they're able to pay their bills, to have some, save in the bank. So what can they do to help their money work for them?
Okay, so in regards to credit or just in general?
Both.
In general, okay. So one of the things you have to do is you have to sit down and look at your monthly income. You have to see, you can't compare it to anyone else. And this is just taking out, you have to think about your lifestyle. So how much you spend on groceries, how much you spend on gas, how much you want to spend for entertainment. So, and if you have extra money, you always want to do something with that. You do not want it to just sit anywhere. So first sit down, look at your finances. It's really not boring. I promise it's not boring. It's really fun, actually. But that's the finance in me. But just sit down and look at what you have. And then see, okay, if I can move a certain amount of money to this account, or if I can invest it into this account, or if I can give a little more to, your current church, wherever you worship, whatever you are trying to achieve, invest it in those areas. So you have to do what works best for you by just kind of sitting down and looking what the alternative goal is. What am I trying to achieve here? Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to achieve, let's just use establishing credit. So one of those things, you're going to have to set a little monthly budget aside for those things, right? So those are ways you can help make your money work for you. Just setting those little small goals, small budgets to see what fits best for you.
Okay. And so we're talking about saving and paying off debt. So do you have any strategies or even additional programs for someone that says, okay, I want to save, but I also need to pay down my debt because I may be saving for a house or something in the future? What would you say to someone who has a question like that?
So I would say about every 90 days, you should be able to, first you want to stay in the loop of where you are credit-wise. That is very important in terms of saving, because if you're trying to pay off debt, your debt is a part of your credit. So whether it's a student loan, whether it's a small medical bill or something like that, you have to include those things in your budget because you want to pay off debt and save at the same time. But the more you pay off your debt, which is the first thing you want to do, the more you can save. A lot of people think if I save, then I should just pay off my debt and then I can pay off my debt. You want to get that debt to income ratio down. So that is the most important thing. So for an example, if you have I'm going to give a realistic salary income a month, $4,000 a month income after you pay rent or whatever expenses you've had. And let's say you have an extra $500 after your lifestyle entertainment. I would strongly suggest take $200 of that and put it in a savings account and put the remaining balance towards that. Or what works best for me personally, I'd like to see a number. So if there's something, for an example, on a credit card, pay that credit card balance off at the end of the month. Don't pay the minimum balance because that's not going to benefit you. You're going to just be paying on that monthly interest. And so if you have a $200 credit card balance, I would pay that before I put it in my savings account. So those are just little tips and tricks that I would suggest. Obviously, you have to do what works best for you, but every quarter, so every 90 days, I would revisit and see where I am debt-wise, because the most important thing when you want to purchase anything major is your debt-to-income ratio. And if you can eliminate that, then you can accomplish so much more.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that information. And we'll circle back later on with any questions or comments. So again, to our audience, if you could please put any questions that you have in the comments, and we will circle back at the end and touch on those. Next, I'm going to talk to Ms. Aurora. Please tell us about your financial background.
Well, my financial background started when I was 13 years old. My mother what money I got, she started a bank account. So just trying to help me understand how to fill out a check, what a check is. Those are foreign now and extinct. But she taught me that and just how to pay what you owe, your expenses, how to plan, how to budget, and things of that sort. A funny story, she came in my room one day after track practice and she was trying to teach me how to pay bills and things like that, and the importance of money and the value of money. And she comes into my room, and my lamp is on, I'm doing homework, and she's just talking while she's unscrewing my bulb. And she unscrews the bulb, the room goes dark, and she just walks out because I hadn't paid her for my portion with the Monopoly money or whatever it was we were using. So just those little tips and things. And so carrying that into college and into the Navy, I was able to help with budgets, very similar to what you do, how you help people. And then when I retired in 2015, I came back home. And after getting some time to know me and getting adjusted, I put my resume out. The only folks that clicked on my resume and wanted to interview were insurance folks. So I started working with Colonial Life, which is worksite benefits, and had the opportunity to just talk to business owners. And talking to business owners was able to understand their unique situations, not just on the business side, but on their personal finance side too. And so eventually I left Colonial Life and I began to work with JD Financial Group under James Dean. And he gave me the look behind the curtain into financial services, to how it runs in the background and how it plays a part in how we serve our clients. And I've been hooked ever since. So I joined JD Financial Group 2018 timeframe. So yeah.
Okay, well, great. Thank you again for joining us this evening.
Yeah.
So with your background in insurance, can you talk to us about the different types of insurance? And of course, as a single person, what are the ones that we must have, starting with the most important, one that we need to start off with, and just to take care of ourselves to make sure that we have a cushion. Like, for instance, with this pandemic, a lot of people were out of work. They may not have had insurance, but if they had, just tell us about what we really need to have.
Okay. So with JD Financial Group, it's a full-fledged insurance and investment firm, one of the largest Black firms in the state. So when we approach a person about not just insurance and investing, we look at them holistically. And that's very important, because any kind of teeter there or any kind of behavior issues is going to impact what you set aside for insurance. It's going to impact how you view the necessity for insurance and any other vehicle that you use to fund your retirement or accumulate money. So the buzzword is wealth, right? This is the buzzword, wealth building, and what all that means. And so from a Christian perspective, I think about wealth. I know this is a roundabout way of answering, but I'm trying to, From a Christian perspective, we have to approach wealth with a whole different perspective and mindset. The world's definition of wealth basically is tied to your identity, right? Are you trustworthy enough to loan you money and you pay it back? So that's based on an opinion. Or stocks, the opinion of the value of a company, and it fluctuates. The opinion about your value, your and my value, and our ability to make money, right? So all of that's tied to that perception and opinion. However, God sees wealth in a total different way, because our identity is tied to Him. Mm-hmm. It's not tied into what we accumulate on this side of heaven, because He's a provider, right? That's right. So when we approach money and finance and wealth, we have to approach it from that mindset, that as we get these things that God gives us, that is supposed to remain in circulation. It's not supposed to be hoarded up, right? So with that being said, insurance, the basis of insurance is risk management. So my definition of risk management is any kind of disruption that comes, you being able to have provision during that disruption. Mm-hmm. So insurance, any kind of insurance, life, health, disability, property casualty, car, your pizza, your cell phone, whatever, your dog, whatever kind of insurance you have, is basically there to provide for provision in the event of a disruption. It helps provide the stability while you're going through that disruption. It's not meant to just be like, whoa, like, the prodigal son, So your most valuable asset is you. Right? So if you're a working adult, then you need to protect your ability to continue to work, right? Your ability to continue to make money. So that's your disability, right? If you have children, then of course you need life insurance, right? You also need health insurance. So it just depends on the person's dynamic. And since we're talking about singles, it's interesting. I'm not married. I don't have kids. So, what would you be storing up for? Well, it depends on what God wants me to do. Mm-hmm. So my store up or accumulating for how my money is going to circulate is directly tied to what God's plan is for Aurora in the long term. Mm-hmm. And that's how we make those determinations. So when you come and talk to us about insurance or things like that, then those are the types of questions, because how you want to live in retirement may be totally different than how either one of us want to live in retirement. Or what your highest liability is may be totally different than mine. Your highest liability might be your 4-year-old child. Mm-hmm. If something happens to you today, how long do you want your income to carry that child until that child gets old enough to carry themselves? So those are the types of questions we look at, and everybody's different. Okay. I eventually answered your question. But
I know a lot of times when you're looking at insurance, you see term, life insurance, and different. Can you just kind of touch on maybe just highlight that, maybe the difference, so when folks are looking at it, they kind of know, okay, even though we're going to reach out to you mm-hmm. or someone in your field, a lot of times everything is online. So
Right.
we go online and we see all this information. You've got commercials, and just kind of maybe touch on what would be best for you. Like, for example, for me, I have a son, single.
Mhm.
What would I need to, or someone like yourself, don't have,
Right.
children or spouse, to make sure that I'm choosing the right thing?
Right. So once again, it all depends. But when it comes to term and whole life and permanent and things of that sort, your term is mostly for whatever your highest liability is. It could be a house. It could be your child. It could be an aging parent. Even, whatever that highest liability is, term is a good option for that, because you're not carrying it for a long time. Mm-hmm. I just needed to cover until this amount of time. For example, you buy a house, 30-year mortgage. Term will be perfect for that, because it's going to cover the time frame of that mortgage. However, if you're talking about legacy and leaving something behind, then you probably want to look at something permanent like whole life or something like that, that's building some kind of cash value, and but still covers in the event that something happens. One of the biggest things that our firm offers is something that's called accelerated benefit riders. So I think sometimes when people think about life insurance, they just equate it with death instantly. No, there's nothing we can do for you when you die. Right? So just plan for it now, write the check, get it done and over with, so you can concentrate on life. And to me, hence life insurance, that's what it's about. It's about your sustainability while you're living. So in the event that you live too long, right? In the event that you get sick, or in the event that you die, we have those benefit riders where your policy is able to protect in all of those circumstances, instead of, you dying, for your family to be able to get that money.
Okay, good. Thank you. So we're going to touch on, I know a lot of people don't like talking about this conversation, death, but it's eventually everyone is going to happen. So can you talk about and touch on the importance of estate planning, especially as a single person, making sure that everything you have is taken care of, because you don't necessarily have a spouse and you may not have any children, to make sure that your wishes are carried out, and just touch on just the importance of having something, so when that time comes, we don't have to sell dinners, GoFundMe, different things like that, to make sure that you're taken care of, and just the importance of it. Can you touch on that?
Sure. It's a scripture that I want to, and I saw this scripture, I chuckled when I saw it. It's Ecclesiastes 4, verse 8. It says, "There is one alone without companion. He has neither son nor brother." Well, I have a sister, but I don't have kids. "Yet there is no end to all his labors, nor his eyes satisfied with riches. But he never asks, for whom do I toil and deprive myself of good? This also is vanity and a grave misfortune." So you're hustling and working and just storing up money. Why? Right? So when it comes to life insurance and any kind of insurance, and trying to toy with that question of how much, right? Then those are types of things that you want to weigh. Do I need that much? Vast majority of people are underinsured because they go to the internet because they don't want to deal with us, right? They don't want to call their financial advisor because I don't want to be sold. They're going to sell more to me, this, and the other. Well, there's wisdom in counsel. There's wisdom in godly counsel. So in that, we're able to assess various things to figure out how much you need, where it needs to be placed, and how it needs to function for when you need it. So finding an advisor, finding one of the resources that Shay talked about to be able to make that assessment is paramount, because even the Bible and Proverbs talks about consultants. And that's what we do. We consult, And so there's wisdom in those numbers. Can you repeat your question so I can make sure I answer?
Yeah, you did. We talked about the estate planning and just the importance of
wills. Yes. Get an attorney first. I'm not an attorney, so I can't make that advice or whatever. But get an attorney. But have a will. People, please have a will. Have a will. Have something written down as far as what you want your final wishes to be beyond the grave, right? Your will and your trust speaks to what you want to do when you're gone, right? And it would be a shame to work and work and work and work for nothing. For the government to take it all, or for it to be wasted, it would just be a shame. So when it comes to estate planning, get a consultant, get an attorney. It will be worth the effort, right? And be careful of the sites where you can go on and write your own will. Be careful with that.
And I just want to piggyback off what you said is I've seen a lot of single people that did not have wills. And when you mention the government, that's usually what happens. You see it with safe deposit boxes. People didn't leave a will for that. So we go in and we unlock it and we have to send that stuff over. So that is a very good point. The will, the attorney is worth every penny. That way you can get things set out the way you want them out, opposed to somebody else making that decision.
Or getting tied up in probate.
Exactly. Also, you have POA accounts and you have point of death accounts. So if you're older and, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be by yourself if that's what you choose to do. But I strongly suggest having someone on your account that you trust, whether it's a parent, whether it's a cousin, someone that you trust that can help make decisions. God forbid, let's say you broke your leg or something like that. And you can't really get out of bed. You can't really make decisions right now. And a lot of financial institutions won't allow you to do anything over the phone.
Right.
So it is very, very important to have someone, a power of attorney, or someone as a beneficiary on your account. Even if you don't, I don't want them on my account, you can have them as a beneficiary, as a backup. Because if you don't have those things in a will, what happens is it puts people like us in a situation where we're having to turn those funds over or those items over to the government or to someone that's next of kin that you probably didn't even want to have it in the first place. So that is a very, very good point. I just wanted to touch on that.
And also,
very common.
And also, if you have a will or life insurance, please update your beneficiaries because it's not your financial services representative that $500,000 is going to your ex-wife.
Yeah.
Update your beneficiaries. I'm sorry, but do those things. Update your will. If you don't want Cousin Junebug to have none of your stuff, then make the updates while you're living and breathing and of sound mind.
Because we're going to give it to whoever that person is on that account. Whoever you have, if you haven't updated it and you didn't want Cousin Junebug on there, Cousin Junebug going to get it because you didn't update it.
Or a widow didn't update it and it was left to their spouse that has passed years ago. And then
these are real life things.
And being of sound mind is the most.
Yes.
It's so important, especially as a single person. It is so important because you are making your decisions, your financial decisions. Nobody else is making those for you.
That's right.
So you want to make sure that you are in your right mind, that you're choosing and selecting someone responsible. Don't just have anybody on there. I have seen many people come into the credit union and just they added somebody on there and just did not do right. And, legally, we are able to make sure that person has those rights because you didn't update anything. So please choose someone that's responsible, someone that you trust. It's very rare in the African American community that you see wills. So it is very, very dear to my heart that I see a lot of people do that. I think a lot of people hear the word attorney and feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have the money, but it's really not. And even if you're unsure, you don't have to make a decision that day. Like my sister said right here just now, reach out to a consultant and just to get information. Information doesn't hurt. It's more knowledge and something you can always revisit, but at least visit.
And also with the attorney, sometimes employers will have the free service to reach out. So, look into that with your employer and see what they have. I do want to just piggyback on something. I know we had the conversation about revisiting your insurance, like your auto insurance, to make sure that you're not overpaying or paying for something that you don't use or don't need. So if you could just touch on when to do that, how often to do that.
I usually do mine once a year, and that's because I like to put people in the pigeonhole to see if I can get a lower rate. However, property and casualty and auto insurance like that can be complicated. It can be, like, what is this and what is, that. So it's worth the revisit at least at renewal. When it's time to renew, then that renewal is coming up for a reason. For you to evaluate, is it covering enough? Because if you have a lifestyle change or something like that, you might need more coverage, what do you need? Do you need the full coverage? Is the car just sitting in the driveway? Do I need coverage then? All kinds of things are worth exploring. But when you go to renew your policy, that would be the best time to just weigh out those terms. Do I need this check? What is it? Get the full explanation in order to make educated decisions, and to even see if you can get a lower rate. Now, if you're out here hot rodding and get caught, then you're not going to get, they're going to annually review it for you and jack it up. So it behooves you to, if you're a safe driver and there's some bills there, to talk about with your agent.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And again, to our audience, if you all have any questions, if you could please put them in the comments, and we will visit those at the end, once we allow some time at the end. So we're going to go to Mr. Jacoby, and he is going to talk to us on home ownership, first-time homeowners, or even if you're needing to refinance. So Jacoby, if you could give us some of your financial background, please.
Good evening. So I'm Jacoby with Black Hawk Mortgage. Been in mortgage field in about 14 years or so. So home ownership is, I'm a firm believer in it. I think it's a cornerstone. We spoke about credit, estate planning, insurance, and all that stuff. I believe real estate ownership is another cornerstone in wealth building. So what better way to do it? Owning your home. After this somewhere, so why not own it? I start each conversation with my clients, real basic. We kind of touched on these items already. 4 C's, that's credit. Capacity, that's the ability to repay the loan. Capital, that's what we talk about, savings, and where's the down payment coming from, and things of that nature. And then the last C, collateral, that's what we talk about, what type of home we buying. That's the collateral that the lender will use to lend you the money. Credit, most places are going to do a report. FICO is the big industry, FICO credit score. Most places do a primary report, meaning pull from the big 3. The big 3 are Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And we do a middle score. If you're dealing with any banks or mortgage lender like myself, it's going to be your middle score. If you're working with credit unions, most credit unions probably be either using Equifax or Experian. So it's the middle score that you want to focus on. Not going to go into too much details about that. The next thing is going to be the trade lines on the report. What things do you have open? I heard someone mention on the panel about debt income ratio. That kind of parlays with the trade lines and also the capacity. The popular trade lines that most people that I normally see are going to be car loans. Car loans, I call it the gift and the curse. It's amazing something how high these car loans can be. So be careful with car loans, credit cards, that's another one. You need the minimum, whatever your minimum payment, not how much you pay a month, whatever that minimum payment, that's what we use to calculate your debt income ratio. And a big one right now is student loan debt. It's huge. I think that's a whole other conversation. I think student loan debt is going to be probably the next bubble that we're going to have to deal with. But it seems like most people have student loan debt. So that's a big one. Capacity, that's what we're talking about, the ability to repay. Real simple, most people are W-2. You're full-time, you get a W-2 every year from the employer. There are other forms of income that we can use for capacity. I won't get too much details about that. The next C, capital. That's when we talk about your assets. Where's the money coming from? Gifts are acceptable. One thing that gets people in trouble that sometimes I have to really break it down. When you get in a mortgage, the underwriter is going to get in your business. So for some people, it seems like they ask for everything but your DNA.
They do.
Ask a lot of questions. And I bring that up to talk about large deposits. So when you're saving for buying a home, 9 times out of 10, you have to provide the most recent 2 months bank statement, right? And it can be a combination. It can be your savings here, some type of investment account here. The money doesn't have to be in one spot. It can be a combination of different spots. But just keep in mind, you don't want to have any large deposits coming into those accounts. I mean, if it's like to pay your direct deposit for pay or a tax return, that's fine. But if your cousin is giving you, a couple of $1,000 just put in your account, that's not a good time to do it in those 2 months that you're buying a home. Or if you have a large sum of cash sitting at home under your mattress, you decide to go deposit into the bank, you want to have that money seasoned, just like your grandma always has something cooking on the crock pot. You want to have it seasoned for at least 2 months, so those large deposits don't come into play.
Okay.
That's a really quick overview. 4 C's: credit, capacity, capital, and collateral.
Okay, Jacoby, also, are there any programs out there for first-time home buyers or programs for someone that wants to refinance? If you could just kind of touch on some programs that are out there.
First, 12 years. I left corporate, came to Blackhawk right here. We're Black-owned, out of Charlotte. Took a leap of faith, left corporate America, so now I'm an independent broker. Doing purchases, refinances, primary, investment properties, second homes, we do it all. Now, as far as down payment programs, there are programs out there. My time at BB&T, that's what I did. I worked with a lot of first-time home buyers. I'm very familiar with the different programs, especially in Winston-Salem. That's where I used to live in Winston-Salem. I worked at BB&T on 2nd Street downtown. I worked at also Norfolk Town Road branch. So I'm very familiar. We're very honest and transparent right now. The current market is ridiculous. It's a seller's market. There's no inventory, so it's very competitive. So number one, the most probably program that's still probably really popular is North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. That's NCHFA. You can go right to their website. They have different resources. They have an $8,000 down payment program. They also have a 3% down payment program. One thing when we talk about these different programs for first-time home buyers, the big thing is you can't make over a certain amount of money. Many times it's capped at 80% of the AMI That's area median income. You can Google that, whatever county you're looking to buy in, look at the 80% column, and that's going to be the household income that most of these down payment programs are going to cap you at. If you can't make over, meaning if you make more than what the 80% AMI for the county, then you don't qualify for the down payment program. Credit unions are great as well if you're looking for some down payment help, because credit unions have 100% programs. State Employees Credit Union, I know for a fact, has 100%. And when I say 100%, meaning if the home is selling for $200,000, for example, then you can get a loan for $200,000. You don't have to come up with the down payment. Credit unions have that flexibility because they don't sell their mortgages; they keep it in their portfolio, so they can be they can be flexible and have some different programs. Also, I'm a veteran. Any veterans out there? VA, we do VA loans. I do VA loans all day. If you're a veteran and you have your, you pull your certificate of eligibility, that's another great resource for 100% finance. It's a great mortgage product. So any veterans out there, you can utilize your VA benefits to buy a home. Also, different banks have also different programs. I know BB&T, they had the CHIP program when I was working there, which is another 100% program. Federal Home Bank of Atlanta is another program that some lenders partner with. It's a 4-to-1 match. It's a grant. Also, tap into your local resources. The IDA program, it's in Winston-Salem. That's a great program. It's a partner with them a lot. They offer a 12-month financial literacy program. 12 months, they have different people come in and speak. They teach you how to save, have a budget. Then at the end of that 12-month, they give you a grant that matches your savings. And they also connect you with the Forsyth County Housing. Bianca Green is the point of contact there. They also have money there. And like I said, but all these programs, they're all tiered on income. You can't make over a certain amount of money to qualify. That's the big thing when you're looking at some of these first-time home buyer programs.
Well, thank you so much for that, Jacoby. Question, I'm not seeing any in the comments. So again, if anyone has any questions, please make sure you put them in the comments. But Ms. Aurora, I wanted to come back to you on something that we had talked about. You kind of touched on retirement a little bit, but if you can kind of just reiterate on the importance of preparing as a single person for retirement, to not have to, like you said, work, not to have to work till you're 80 years old, on what we need to do and when to start. Because there, I'm sure we have age groups from 20 on up. But if you're just starting out, when do you need to start, and just kind of touch on the retirement aspect of it?
Well, if you don't want to be 80 years old singing hi ho, it's off to work we go. So it's no time like now, but you got to be realistic, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't be 55 and say, well, I don't want to work past 60, but I haven't started retirement, so you got to weigh it. But retirement is about the accumulation phase in present day dollars to pay out in the future in those non-working years, right? So you want that guaranteed income, and there's so many ways to do it and build it, but it just depends on what the person wants. Somebody might want to just sit on their porch in the rocking chair with a glass of lemonade, and that's retirement for them. Some might want to travel and just hit it hard, So what your lifestyle is now, if you want to keep that same lifestyle, then that's going to determine what you need to put in there. Now, what you need to put into, say, for retirement. But to put some balance in it, if you do not go see someone like this, right, to get your debt to income ratio, and you're just a spendthrift, you are not going to be able to be honest or objective in the accumulation phase because you're going to be spending the money that you should be saving. So if you want to live La Vida Loca now, then live La Vida Loca now and eat your filet mignon now. But remember that as cost of living goes up, as taxes begin to go up, then the potential of you having to decide whether to buy the head of lettuce or your medicine becomes a stark reality. So the type of life that you want to live in your retirement years depends on the behaviors that you set in place now to drive that.
Okay. Also, I know we had talked about this when we had initially I reached out to you about business owners starting your own business with pandemic. I know I see a lot of people on Instagram and Facebook. You know, they have their regular 9 to 5, but they also have a side hustle, whether it's crafts or different types of things. But if you could kind of touch on a person that is wanting to venture out in that, or, you know, maybe they just make jelly at home and they're thinking, well, hey, maybe I should do this. Should I sell it on this, sell it on here? Just kind of touch on if you're wanting to venture out into that lane on what's the best avenue.
Two of my roles at JD Financial Group, I'm a business valuation specialist, so I appraise businesses. But also on the flip side of that, I have my own business called Time Design Services. And JD Financial Group has put us on staff to help business owners, basically. So research, you got to research, right? The Bible talks about counting your costs. You know, nobody goes to build anything without counting the cost first. And so a lot of research goes into it. You know, what you're going to do, where's the money going to come from, how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, what's the outcome you desire. You know, do you desire to work yourself out of your 9 to 5 and fully into your own business? Or do you want it to continue to just be something that supplements your income? Is the most important decision that you make before even executing. If you want to build a business, start the business, scale it quick, and then sell it, and let that be your seed money for your retirement, then it's a lot that goes into that. If you want it to pass on to your family members, it's a lot that goes into that. But the most important thing that you can do to do yourself and everybody involved is to do your research.
Gotcha. Okay. I do have a question in the comments. It said, can you talk on long-term care insurance and benefits because Medicare and Medicaid may not pay?
Long-term care can be expensive if you're over a certain age. Like when you're hitting your 40s, it can be really expensive. But there are other things that you can do. When I talked before about the life side of insurance, not the death side, there are certain things that you can do with insurance to help supplement that. When I talked about the ABRs, live too long, get sick, or die early or something like that, then there are things that you can put in place to help with that, because long-term care can be expensive. You know, if you don't hit it early on in your 20s and 30s, I wasn't thinking about, like, because I don't get sick, and I'm certainly not going to get fat. Well, if shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know. But if you don't hit that early, it can be very, very, very expensive. But there are other alternatives in order to provide for that. And it just depends on the person. So it would be worth seeking out a consultant on that.
Okay, I'm just trying to see. Okay, Shay, was there anything that you wanted to revisit?
Well, one of the things I kind of want to piggyback off on two of these amazing panelists. Well, one of the things in terms of the mortgages, if you are trying to establish credit, build credit, here are just a few suggestions that you can look into. First, I recommend a credit card, and I don't mean like a small credit card with a high interest rate. I am talking about something that's going to give you rewards, something that something that's going to give you rewards, but you don't want to have a high interest rate is the most important thing. And so you want to always keep your credit cards at 30%. You do not want to exceed those those funds. For an example, buy gas, groceries, buy a cute blouse, but pay it back. Don't go buy the whole store. Because we all know we're going to still have a few clothes options. We're going to buy an outfit to go with that blouse. But one thing, and pay that off. Those, I'm telling you, credit cards will boost your credit in 30 days. If you stay super consistent with that. Another option is a revolving line of credit. A lot of people are not familiar with this, but a revolving line of credit is very similar to a credit card. So basically, you are approved for a loan for a certain amount. They can range from $1,000, and I've seen them range to $100,000, just depending on your income. So, for an example, if you got approved for $5,000, like your credit card, you don't want to pull the whole $5,000 out. You want to just pay what you use for that month. You want to see a huge jump. That is a great way. If you want to own your home, that is something that you're wanting to do to get your FICO score up to a certain number, because there's good credit, there's very good credit, and there's excellent. We all come from the kingdom of God, so we all going to be prosperous regardless. So we want that excellent credit. So I just want to get on that, because a lot of people from 20 and up, some are already established and some are not. And so the student loan is a big one. We are hoping that one day we all have that, but student loans is a big one. See what programs there are out there to kind of get those down. If you are already established and you want to know how you can make your money work for you and you have extra, I strongly recommend a money market account. And CDs are great too, but I always recommend a money market account, because your money is making money. Right. And then, you have options, and it's kind of in the same boat with insurance. You kind of just want your money to grow. CDs, you definitely can do that as well. However, you can't add to those. So money markets are really great. And so that's just something I kind of want to touch on, because credit is so important to the key of life. If you want to go on a lot and buy something, the first thing they're going to want to know what your income is, and what your credit score is. You want to buy a home, just like my brother was just saying. The underwriter is going to want to know if you went to McDonald's. Why'd you go to McDonald's? They're going to want to know all of these things. So credit is so, and you have time. You can see a huge jump within 90 days if you stay consistent. And then my final point that I want to cover is, I'm not in insurance at all. However, check with your employer to see what they're willing to put into your retirement. If they're going to give you 6%, match that.
I'm glad you brought that.
Match that. Don't be like, I'm going to just put 2%. Let me tell you, that is really good. If they're going to give you 8%, match that. That money, you will not miss that money. I'm telling you, a lot of people are key on, especially when you're single, key on the number. Get away from that. If you're you have a great employer and they're willing to give you money to fund your retirement, take that. And then my final point is, if you don't have to pull from your retirement, please don't. I think the most common that I've seen is usually for home ownership, closing costs. I mean, those are reasons. But to go on vacation, I got a few thousand in here, I can put it back. If you don't have to touch it, please don't touch it. Just let your money grow, and just stay as responsible with it as possible. And that's really all I have.
Okay. We do have a question in the comments. It said, for singles, if they don't have anyone to trust their estate, can they have an attorney appointed as an executor of their estate?
Yeah, the person holding the trust is I'm thinking about mine in the future and leaving it to a charity. So I would need an administrator of that, and the lawyer would be the best one, because they're your voice beyond the grave. They're the ones telling your money, giving your money instructions beyond the grave, right? So.
Okay, another question is, speak on the need of Medicare supplement options versus basic Medicare A and B options to help curb healthcare costs?
I have no idea about Medicare.
Okay.
And that's the truth. Medicare, Medicaid is definitely not my strength at all.
Okay.
My mother was asking me to help, and I was like, yeah, I could tell you somebody, right? But if you call JD Financial Group, and the number is, hold on, because I don't have to memorize, it's another number to add 2 numbers, 336-722-6304. We have people that are able to speak to that, because in financial services is so wide, right? And that's just not my my strong suit.
Gotcha. I did want to circle back with Jacoby to see if he had anything that he wanted to add.
So I just want to touch on what I see as far as home ownership, the 2 biggest barriers. I'm going to circle back around on credit, especially in our community, the Black community. I think it's a sensitive subject. Some of us are scared of credit, or think credit is bad. But the mindset that I want us to have when we talk about credit is nominal. It's neither good or bad. What makes it either good or either not so good is the way it's used. So I use a metaphor. View credit is like a brick. You can use a brick to break windows and damage property, which is not good, or you can use a brick to build a foundation. So let's change our view of credit. It's not bad. It's how it's utilized that makes it that way. And I think a lot of us, and I'm talking from personal experience as well, really were never taught credit. So the way we learned about it, we might have messed up. We might have done some things we may shouldn't have done. That cell phone bill in college that you just let go into collections, or that credit card they gave you, you signed up for, you really didn't have a job and you just ran it up, not knowing the proper way to use it. And now we're dealing with the consequences of trying to rebuild our score. So we have a sour taste of credit. So credit is not bad, it's how it's used, so let's change that mindset. Also, the capital piece, that's going to be huge. If you do some research and you see, this is one stat that just amazes me. The African American community has a spending power of smaller nations.
Yep.
I think we spend about almost $3 trillion a year. So we have power, we have money, but we just need to do a better job of harnessing our resources, our assets, supporting one another, supporting people that look like us, businesses that look like us, and also that savings piece to help close that wealth gap. I'm all about living a legacy. I want my family, my kids, better start from something versus from starting from scratch. I think if we can look ourselves in the mirror and say, I'm going to be that one that makes that change for my family, for my community, but I'm going to leave a legacy. And everything we've been talking about tonight basically boils down to leaving a legacy, because we're not going to be here forever. Eventually transition. But one thing we should be doing to those, our loved ones, our kids, our spouses, if we do leave, insurance, making sure, I hate my wife's uncle passed away a couple of years ago, and family calling me, hey, we need to get, have a couple, GoFundMe's, because we don't do insurance. So that's one thing. I can see the question. I see one question here that I answered before I turn it back over.
Okay, good.
How does closing credit cards impact your credit scores? Do you recommend doing this prior to getting a home loan? That's a great question. Payment history is a big part of your FICO score. Payment history is about 35% of your overall FICO. And a real quick example of, it's a huge impact. So one thing I just spoke about credit. You have this card. Let's say the debt utilization is above 50%, but let's say you always paid the card on time, right? You never was late. You at least made the minimum payment. So and let's say you had this card for over 3 to 5 years. So it's an older card. It has great payment history. And let's say you finally get to the point where you can, let's say you get that tax return, or let's say you got the stimulus and you have some monies and that. I'm tired of being this debt. I'm gonna pay this card off. All right. So, quick example. Let's say you have 3 cards. Let's say you have credit card A, $1,000 limit. Credit card 2. Yeah, all 3 have $1,000 limits, right? So let's say all of them are maxed out, right? Let's say all of them are maxed out. But let's say that credit card A, you decide to pay off, right? So right now, when you pay that card off, this is how you calculate the debt utilization, really quick and easy. So now you pay that one card off. So now you have $2,000 in debt that's owed, and your credit limit is $3,000, right? So if you divide 2,000, that's how much debt you still have on the other 2 cards. But you have, your credit limit on all 3 of those cards are 1,000, right? So it's 3,000. So you divide 2,000 by 3,000, and it's going to give you a percentage. So you're at 66% debt utilization, right? Which you're still over the 30% threshold that someone mentioned tonight, which is absolutely true. But let's say in this example, to Mrs. Smith's question, you decided to close that card out. And that's the mindset a lot of us have. Like, you've been taught to close out the card. You're not going to use anyone to close it.
Right.
You just close it. Tired of it. But what you do in a lot of cases when you close a good card that you have for so long, you actually hurt your score. Your score actually goes down. And here's why. You got 2 things. First, like I mentioned earlier, payment history is 35% of your overall FICO. So when you close that card, that payment history is gone. So that payment history is gone away. Also, your debt utilization, which is another 30% of your score, it may increase. So you just check that out. Paying off a card, and you close it, and your debt utilization goes up, not down. So in that same example, the $2,000 example, let's say you have the 2 cards, right? The $3,000 limit. You pay off 1, so so that's 66%. Let's say you close 1, so now you lose that. You don't have that value. You're still maxed out on 2 cards. So I mean, it's really simple math. You lost that $1,000 limit, so now you have 2 cards, right? They're still maxed out. So what is your debt utilization? If you kept the card open, it would have went down to 66%. But since you closed it, your debt utilization went up to 100%.
Wow.
And your score goes down. So little tricks that we're not taught, kind of think a little bit deeper. But maybe you can put my email. Anybody has any more questions, more with home ownership, I'd be more than happy to answer them via email. But that's all I have.
Thank you, Jacoby. So yes, if you could let them know how to get in contact with you, and also if you would add it to the comments, if they have any additional questions, where can they reach you?
Will do. Oh, my email is my first name and last name, Mr. Jacoby Harold's right there on the screen, at Black Hawk, right there, like the color, the bird, HAWK, MTG.com. So Jacoby Harold at BlackHawkMTG.com.
Thank you. And Shay, if you can give your information if they have any additional questions.
Yes, you can reach me at Shad, that's SHAD, at mywsfcu.org, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Ms. Ward.
My number is 336-405-8240, and my email is Turner, TURNER _Aurora, AURORA, at N as in Nancy, L as in Lamb, group mail.com. That's a lot.
Well, I want to thank our panel for joining us tonight. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I don't see any more questions, but again, you have their information. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to them. So I just want to thank you all for joining us, and you all have a good night and be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amazing job.
And we can move. Me too.